Hello everyone. For the 3 people who end up watching this video, I welcome you. This is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast. Now I know I've already given an introduction video to my channel, but I think I need a separate one for this particular project. Now as I mentioned in my first intro video, one of my first big tasks is going to be an Asian horror year in review project, where I will cover over 600 Asian horror films in chronological order over a span of 40 or so YouTube videos. Now each video is going to include my spoiler-free mini review on each movie, as well as my thoughts on Asian horror movie trends, if any, that existed during the time period covered by that particular video. So in theory, you should gain a greater knowledge of the Asian horror film industry overall, while at the same time receiving just enough information on each individual film so you can decide on what films you may want to watch yourself. Now obviously some of these movies will be discussed very briefly, while others will be discussed a bit more thoroughly. But it is important to keep in mind that I will go into much greater detail on a select handful of Asian horror titles, but those will be posted as a separate playlist on my channel. So titles for all the movies that I discuss will be listed in the description box for each individual video. So it'll make it easy for you to see a snapshot of all the movies to be discussed in each video. So if you're looking for one and you research what year it was released on IMDb or whatever, you just find my video with that year, open up the description box and see if it's included, and you'll know I'm going to cover it in that particular video. So just trying to make things a little easy for you. Now I really think that this high volume approach that I'm doing will be a lot of fun and will also be useful to a lot of different types of movie fans. So if you're a veteran Asian horror fanatic like me, we can discuss your opinions on the movies that I cover. If you're a moderate fan, you can get plenty of recommendations. If you're only starting to get into Asian horror, or you just want to know what kinds of films are produced within that particular industry, you could get a great high-level knowledge. And if you're one of those people who hate Asian horror and think that all Asian horror movies are nothing but cash grab ghost girl films, then you could get ready to have your rear end handed to you when I prove otherwise. One thing to understand though is that I have obviously not seen every Asian horror movie, so there are some industries that I have yet to explore to a significant degree. Now countries such as the Philippines and Indonesia have a fairly long history of horror movies, but I will only address around maybe 60 or so movies from those industries combined in terms of horror. And the majority of those titles will be contemporary, although I will be touching on a few of the flicks from the 70s and 80s along the way. Now I have researched and attempted to acquire more Filipino and Indonesian horror films from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but they are extremely difficult to find. Even without English subtitles, they're hard to find. Also, certain production trends in the industry will play a big role in determining the years that we will cover in this project. Now, I'm quite certain that Japan produced far more horror films in the year 2005 than they did in the year 1955, which will consequently result in huge fluctuations in the number of films that we'll cover for any particular year. So for example, I've only seen one Japanese horror film from the year 1955, compared to 29 Japanese horror films from the year 2005. So as another example, we're going to discuss only one Asian horror film that existed before 1950. So one would think that there must have been some Asian horror films released during that first half of the 20th century, but I really question how many were actually produced. I mean, it's possible that some were destroyed or lost during World War II, especially in Japan, but I haven't heard of many Asian horror films that were cataloged as existing during the first half of the 20th century, outside of maybe a handful of Yotsuya Kaiden films that are no longer available. But if you know of any, please comment in the discussion or in the comment section below, because I would be very interested in watching more of them. And that brings us to another one of our dilemmas. The DVD and online availability for the horror films we are covering will be sporadic. So many will be widely available, some will have limited availability, and others will be very difficult to find. So the latter category basically means that those films are now out of print or simply posted onto YouTube or another streaming site for a limited period of time. You can check my second video that I posted on my channel on where to buy and watch Asian horror films and for more details on that. So if I recommend a movie that's difficult to find, you're just going to have to write it down in your to-watch list and then wait for it to emerge again, either on the DVD market or on YouTube or somewhere else. So I do think, however, that this will be more of a problem for the older horror films, because once we get into the modern era, the vast majority of the films that I cover will be widely available. And for the films that I did enjoy and do recommend, I will provide a brief statement on its availability and where it can be purchased or viewed by legitimate means. I'm not going to bother giving purchase info on films that I don't like and don't recommend, with a few exceptions. So, again, make sure you check out that second video on my channel, because I give numerous websites and tips on where to buy and watch Asian movies. So that's the game plan. There's a lot of movies to cover, so we're going to be busy for a while. I hope to get this entire project done by the end of 2016. So we'll see if I can get that done. So stay tuned for my next video, which will be uploaded on the same day as this video. And we'll get started there by reviewing Asian horror films that were released from 1926 to 1969. And as always, we'll see you next time.